Okay, so for this video, I'm going to show you how to animate the hand that we created inside of part 1. We're going to learn a little bit more about how armatures work and how to create some bones inside of our Blender project. So this is going to help introduce animation, but also get a better understanding of what the anatomy looks like inside of a hand. So let's go and get started. Okay, so if you open up your project, what we need to do is we need to make sure that our origin is going to be this red and white circle here. So we need to make sure that's actually in the center of our project. So what you want to do is you want to go over here to where it says cursor on the left hand side, click on that, and you want to hold down shift and then tap the letter C, and it's going to move that cursor back to the center there. So that's going to be really important when we add our armature to this project. So now that I have my cursor there set at the center, I'm going to hit the tab button. Another way you could do that is hold down shift, tap S, cursor to world origin. Alright, so it's going to do the same thing. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to hold down shift, tap the letter A. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to object mode. I'm going to click over here where it says select box. I'm going to go to front view. Again, the way you go into front view is hold down that tilde button, that button to the left of the number 1. Go to front view. I'm going to hold down shift, middle mouse button to get closer to the origin there. I'm going to hold down shift, tap the letter A, scroll up to where it says armature. Then on the right hand side, you should have a little armature character on the right hand side. It's going to be green. And if you can't see your armature, that bone there, it is a little bit hidden. So click on the armature button on the right hand side, scroll down to where it says in front, and now you should be able to see that first bone that we created. Now what you could do is to make this bone a little bit more visible is hold down Alt, tap the letter Z, and now your bone will be a little bit more visible than it was before, instead of just that orange outline. Okay, now I'm going to zoom in just a bit. I'm going to go over to edit mode on the top left, edit mode, and you want to make sure that just the top part of your bone is selected, right? So I'm going to zoom in so you can see a little bit easier. So there's the top of the bone there. So when you have that top part selected, you're going to click on the letter G and then Z, and then you're going to scale it up. And if you need to zoom out, zoom out. You want to get to just below where that sleeve is. So G, Z, you need to scale up just a little bit more. Now from there, we're going to click on E and then move just a little bit above that sleeve. If you need to zoom in, shift, drag up, so while you're zoomed in, you can see what you're actually clicking on. If I need you to move that pivot point, you can click on G, and then that'll help you just drag around that last part without scaling it up. So I'm going to start with the thumb here on the right hand side. So make sure that you just have the top part selected, and make sure you're inside of edit mode, and you're going to click on E, drag out towards the thumb, back to the original part, back to the index finger, original, vertice, drag up towards the middle finger. Make sure you just have that original part of the bone selected, E, and then to the pinky. Now I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to hold down shift, move my middle mouse button, and then use the scroll wheel to zoom in. I'm going to select that first joint that we made, click on E, towards the middle of the thumb, click on that middle part of the thumb, that joint, and then extrude. Right, so each of these would be bones, and then these spheres would be joints. So now we're going to move on to the index finger. Unlike the thumb here, the thumb only has one joint there in the middle. The other fingers have 2 joints in the inside, so you're going to have to extrude twice. So this is the original extrusion for the index finger. I'm going to stop about 1/3 the way up, extrude, and then extrude again. Same thing with these other fingers, extrude about 1/3 up, extrude, 1/3 up, extrude the letter E, and then for the fingertips, 1/3 up, 2/3 up, and then the fingertip. So now I'm going to go into object mode, top left from edit mode, go into object mode. I'm going to click off the edge, click off to this gray part here, click on the outline overhand, not on the sleeve. I'm going to hold down shift, then click on the armature on the inside. Now I'm going to hold down Control, tap the letter P. Now I'm going to go down to where it says with automatic weights. So now if you go to the top left from object mode, you go into pose mode and you click on a bone and you kind of go into a side view, tap the letter R, that'll rotate around that bone there, right? And you should be able to do that with any of these bones. So R for rotate. So I'm just hitting Control Z to recenter everything after I'm done playing around with it to make sure that some of these bones are actually working. So just to make sure that you undo everything that you just did right now, in case you were playing around with the rotation of some of these joints, you could tap the letter A to select everything, then Alt, A-L-T, and R to make sure everything has rotated back to the original position before we started rotating some of these different joints and bones. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go over to Constraints. It's going to be just above that armature button. We're going to go to Object Constraints Properties. So we're going to start with the pinky here. I'm going to click on this middle part of the bone, holding down Shift and the middle mouse button if I need to scoot over or pan over. So I'm going to do it again just so you can see. So click on that middle part of the bone, hold down Shift. I'm going to click on the child. So we're going to say that this is the parent, and the one that comes after the parent is going to be the child. So while holding down Shift, I'm going to click on the child. So these should be two different colors. The parent should be blue and the child should be a light green. Now I'm going to hold down Control, Shift, and then tap the letter C. Now under where it says Transform, I'm going to click down here to where it says Copy Rotation. And over here on the right hand side, I'm going to scroll down to where it says Bone Constraint Properties. And here where it says Target, I'm going to change World Space to Local Space. Same thing with Owner, World Space to Local Space. So now if I click on this middle bone here and I tap the letter R to rotate, you should see the bone just above that also rotating and changing the angle as well. Right, so the more we rotate, the more extreme that rotation gets. So I'm going to click off, Control Z. So we're going to do the same thing with this bone down here to this middle bone. So we're going to call this the parent, and then this would be the child here. So I'm going to click on this new parent here, hold down Shift, click on this middle one. Now I'm going to let go, hold down Control, Shift, C, copy rotation. Now I'm going to change the target from world space to local space. Same thing with owner, from world space to local space. So I'm going to do the same thing for each of these other fingers. I'm going to click on this middle one here for the ring finger. Hold down Shift, click on the top part of the bone, Control Shift C, copy rotation, change target and owner to local space, and then click off. Now I'm going to go to this bottom part of that ring finger, have it selected, click on Shift, click on the middle part, Control Shift C, copy rotation, change target to local space and owner to local space. Now I'm going to hold down Shift and my middle mouse button just so I could scoot over. Click on this middle part here, hold down Shift. Then I'm going to go ahead and let go of Shift, hold down Control Shift C, copy rotation, change target and owner to local space. Make sure you do the same thing with this bottom part, right? So these top two parts of each of these bones should be green. That's how you know you did this correctly, right? So I'm going to click off. So I'm going to click off just so you can see what I did. So these top two parts of these bones should be green to make sure that you're applying that rotation correctly. All right, so I'm going to click on this bottom. So I'm going to click on this bottom part, hold down. So I'm going to click on this bottom part, hold down Shift, click on this middle part, Control Shift C, copy rotation, change target and owner to local space. Just two more fingers to go. Clicking in that middle part here, hold down Shift, click the top part, Control Shift C, copy rotation, change target and owner to local space. Do the same thing with the bottom part of the finger, right? This middle part is not green yet, so we need to do the same thing to this other part as well. So clicking on the bottom part, hold down Shift, middle part, Control Shift C, copy rotation, target and owner to local space. Now let's finish up this last finger here. So for the thumb here, we're only going to do it to this part here. We don't have to do these two parents and a child. So I'm going to click here. I'm going to zoom out so you can see what I have selected. Hold down Shift, click the last part of that bone. Hold down Control Shift C, copy rotation, and then we're going to change target and owner to local space. So the way you can tell if you did this correctly is if you click off of everything, you click on these last gray parts here of each of these fingers, hold down Shift while you select each one, tap the letter R, and you should be able to make a fist or bring all those fingers close to the inside of the palm. And then Control Z to undo. So now what we're going to do is we're going to parent the sleeve to our wrist here. So I'm going to go into object mode. I was already in pose mode, so I'm going to go to object mode, click off, click on the sleeve. I'm going to hold down Shift, click on the armature, hold down Control, tap the letter P. Then I'm going to click on with automatic weights. All right, so if I go back to pose mode and I click on this bone here, just above that second joint, tap R, that sleeve is going to move with the hand. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go to our keyframes. So if you hover over this bottom timeline down here, and you're going to have arrows that point up and down or vertically, you're going to click and drag up. Then on the bottom right hand side, it's going to say end. I'm going to change this to 80 frames. So from 250 to 80. And you're going to see these keyframes get reduced to 80 keyframes. Okay, so we're going to animate this using this center bone here. So make sure you're inside of pose mode and you have that bone selected. So we're going to start this off in a starting point that's already at a curve. So with that bone selected, I'm going to tap the letter R, then bring it over to the right. And then you could right click and click on insert keyframe. And then you want to scroll down to where it says rotation. Then I'm going to bring this keyframe down here to 10 frames, click on R again, go to the left. You could right click or you could tap the letter I, and it's going to bring you straight to the keyframes, and then you just click on rotation. And then you want to move your keyframes forward, tap R, go back over to the starting point, tap the letter I if you'd like to, or you could right click. Right, so you just want to do that for 80 frames back and forth. So if you're already on the right side, you want to move over to the left side. You could right click, insert keyframe, click on rotation, or you could move your keyframes forward, rotate, and then tap the letter I, and then just click on rotation to speed it up a bit. Right, so this is just if it's a repetitive animation. All right, so if you hit the play button down here, it should continuously loop this animation. You can also see what the lighting is going to look like. If you go on the top right and you click on rendered, it's going to have a quick preview of what your armature is going to look like. So if I go ahead and pause this, I'm going to hold down Alt, tap the letter Z, and if I go down to where it has the armature button on the bottom right and click off of in front, that's going to help us hide our armature. So if it's still showing up, so you might have to hold down Alt and then tap the letter Z to hide that armature. And if you hit the play button, the armature didn't go away, the animation didn't go away, it's just that it's hidden and the armature is no longer in front. So now I'm going to move our timeline downward, our keyframes down, by clicking that timeline down, and I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to go into object mode. I'm going to click on the sun there and make sure you're inside of render mode. I'm going to zoom outward. So I'm going to click on the light. The light's going to look like a little sun there. Click on Shift D. It's going to duplicate, and I'm going to move one to the back. Click on the sun again, Shift D, and then move another one to the front. I'm going to move this one. In order to move it, you just click on G while it's selected, and that'll help change the viewpoint. So if you go into front view, all right, that's what the lighting is going to look like there. So if you need to move the sun up, I'm gonna go to do front view, G, and then I'm just dragging it upward. All right, so maybe these suns here need to also be moved upward. And I'm doing this inside of front view. So if this is front view and you need to move the sun forward, you can bring it closer. And this is what your hand looks like. So now we're going to add an environment for this hand here. I'm going to click off. I'm going to click on Shift A, click on Mesh, click on Plane, and I'm going to tap S to scale outward. Now I'm going to go into edit mode. I'm going to click tab and I'm going to click on line mode or edge mode here. This is going to be this center one here. I'm going to click on the right edge and then the back edge there. And the way that I selected both of those is I clicked on one first, held down shift, clicked on the other, and that's going to allow me to extrude both of these. Now I'm going to click on E and then the Z for the Z axis. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to click off. I'm going to click on these inner edges here. I'm going to hold down shift while I click each one. And I'm going to hold down Control B and I'm going to move outward. You could turn your mouse wheel to add bevels, right, to make it look a little bit more smoother. You could move your mouse away from the center to increase the height of this bevel. Now I'm going to click off, go into object mode, and I'm going to right click on Shape Smooth. Now those bevels are hidden. You don't see those bevels anymore. So now I'm going to give this a color. I'm going to go down here to Materials, where it says Material Properties. I'm going to click here where it says Material. I'm going to change it to Background. Click on Base Color. And I'm going to try to get these colors as close as I can to the logo for this channel. Now I'm going to go into Camera Mode. So I'm going to hold down the tilde, go in front. And you could go over here on the right button, toggle into Camera View. And you can tap the letter N. Right here, if you hover over this button here, it's going to say Camera to View. And you want to make sure that that's checked on. And so now you could zoom out, and anything that you are viewing through this camera view is what's going to be rendered. So if you need a shift to drag up, you can also rotate and it's going to move the camera. If you need to zoom out a bit, hold down shift and click the middle mouse button and you could scoot over. You can also zoom in, maybe cut down the bottom part of that sleeve there. And you could center this a bit if you'd like. All right, so with your hand in view, we're going to click off of camera to view. I'm going to click escape. Now we're going to go ahead and render this animation. So I'm going to click over here on this button that looks like a printer. It's going to say output properties. I'm going to set this to 1920 to 1080. I'm going to click on this folder here to make sure we know where we're saving this. All right, so originally we saved this inside of the Windows C. I'm going to click on users. I'm going to click on my user ID. I'm going to click on OneDrive, documents, the academic year, the period you have my class, the semester we're currently in, and then the project folder. And then you would give this a file name, so waving hand. And it's going to have a different extension. It's not going to be the same as .blend, so we can just accept this. And we're going to scroll down over here, so you might have to hover over the right hand side and you're going to have a scroll bar. And we're going to change this from a PNG to a FFmpeg video. And we're going to go down to where it says encoding, and we're going to change the container to MP4. And we're going to change the output quality to perceptually lossless. And what that's going to do is that's going to reduce the file size, so it's going to allow you to upload these files a lot quicker to me. So now we're going to go over here to the top left. We're going to go to render and render animation. And so you're going to see this animation get rendered frame by frame. And it's going to take a little bit of time here. And so you're just seeing each frame get rendered. All right, so I'm going to minimize this here. I'm going to open up our folder. So inside the folder that you saved, you're going to have this video format. So if you go and double click it, it's going to open up that hand there. So this is the attachment that you want to upload and give to me so that I could take a look and make sure that you are actually able to animate this hand and render the video. Okay, so if you have any questions of how to group your armature to your 3D model, how to apply keyframes to your animation, go ahead and let me know. Thank you for watching the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. And feel free to watch any of the other related videos.